Oh, James, thanks, brother. Okay, thanks for your patience there, guys. I'm just coming back to you now with our second half of our classic Firefly haircut, which is my my version, I must stress. So what we've got when the hair's dry is a really, really heavy shape that, to be honest with you, is not that salon wearable in this form. But what I am going to do is firstly start with just some very classic refining techniques, and then we're going to go from there with our methods of checking the haircut. I'm not a big fan of texturizing this. If there's too much weight, that would have been a problem we did when we cut the hair wet. I'm not a fan of texturizing these types of shapes. I would say that we'd always want to develop our cuts further. So if we are texturizing our way out of things like that, then we're probably not learning the lessons. So the first thing I'm going to do is just comb all the hair down. I've been wrapping it for a good 15 minutes. To really get the hair to sit how I want it to sit. I'm going to lightly mist the hair now, just with a drop of hairspray. An aerosol spray is the best for that. And what I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to refine out over from the mid-length, from the centre back of the neck up to this line here. It's just to really tidy up, I suppose, this line. So I'm going to work with club cutting technique, being very mindful of the hairline here. We don't want to cut too close to the hairline on our mannequin, of course, because we would have a big issue. Let's see if I can get a bit closer. So I'm working at eye level here. So my advice to you would be, I again would work directly at eye level. I've done a club cut initially, and then I'm going underneath my line with a pointing technique, which is helping me to take away very, very small amounts of hair. They essentially are not quite perfect. They're underneath the line, giving me some graduation. Another method is if I'm pointing into the line, which is absolutely fine, it'll help me to collapse the line and make, in my opinion, it sit a little bit more wearable and a little bit more natural. It's how we bring precision shapes into our repertoire as a salon floor stylist, I think. So you see, I just feel like it accentuates the curve of the neck more, and I think it just looks a lot more tidy. We're not wearing it like this, we are actually wearing it back. I just wanted to show you the shape, nothing to hide. Again, I'm always a fan of the doing anything for Hairbrained, and James there from Slate Education. I find James, you know, the work those guys produce is just so amazing. You know, and the thing is, there's so many people to admire at the moment. DJ Muldoon, I've mentioned already Jean-Baptiste Mazzella. I've already mentioned Gianni Scamacci, but there's just so many. These are people that have helped train me without knowing it. So that is the outline of my round line. That's essentially what I was cutting in with my fingers initially. Remember I said we weren't setting the guide. We weren't setting the outline when we first started. We said we were going to build the graduation in, and we were going to put the outline on top of the graduation. That's essentially what my aim was to do. I did a shorter version of this the other day, actually, when I was working. Get yourselves a Mason and Pearson brush too. I absolutely love a good Mason and Pearson brush. Just such a great tool to have if you're a hair cutter. I just love it. But I think I did a shorter version, which is why I've done a longer version today. I think the longer version, in my opinion, gives me more of a challenge to negotiate the choice of length on a mannequin head when the hairline, of course, is just stitched. But anyway, I'm going to go through now. Again, I don't need to club cut. There's not too much hair coming away. I tend to club cut, which is, again, cutting across like this, when there's quite a lot of hair to remove. When there's a smaller amount of hair, like there is here, I tend to work with just my pointing technique. I think chipping is going into the hair quite heavily, which is, again, absolutely fine, but that will give you a more serrated edge to your haircut, which is removing, if you like, the softness of the curve, which is when we said it would essentially collapse the line. So again, we're just accentuating the curve round. So now I'm standing square to what I'm cutting, so I can really see both sides, ensure I'm getting them both parallel. Okay, so that's the outline for a second, okay? So that's one thing finished. The internal shape. What I'm going to do is I'm just going to start to take away. I personally prefer to do this opposed to texturizing. I would move the hair out of the way without my clips. See, I was very tempted, nearly went and got a clip then. And I would just lift my section up and just check it. And I'm going to take away a couple of millimeters because as I've dried the hair, I just feel it's a little bit heavy. So instead of me just texturizing the hair in front of the client out, which essentially I think all a haircut really is how and where we leave the weight. So if we then take all the weight out, we're chopping into it. I suppose again I come to the fact that maybe I made the wrong decisions when the hair was wet, and I want to learn the right ones. Again, check your silhouette so you can see through the mirror your shape as from a portrait or a profile, and you'll be able to see the consistency and fluidity of your shape based on that image. You know, and I always think it's really important to check your work from a distance. Don't just check it from standing really, really close to it. If you stood really close, you can't always assess if there's balanced. I always say it's a bit like if somebody is hanging a picture. Again, check it as you work around it. Your eyes adjust and just keep checking your shape. If you're hanging a picture and, you know, you hang it up, you wouldn't then say that's straight. You'd probably take a step back, even ask someone else in the room, is it straight from where you are? So I think it's this very similar thing with the nature of how we check a haircut. I always think the mirror, and you've all heard this a million times, the mirror is the best friend we have in the salon, really. You know, it's such an important tool. So I've just cheated and used a clip. I've tried to hide it, but it's there, it's happened. Again, I'm just lift this up. I'm taking away really quite small amounts of hair, but it's necessary. Here, see, it's a bit more in the middle. Just feel maybe the elevation was a little bit low. So that's given me a much softer. Let's get a bit closer here so you can really check what I'm doing. Just removing those few little bits is just letting it blend slightly better how the hair transitions behind the ear. It was looking a little bit weighty. So I was just going through it, checking it over. Again, sorry I can't answer any questions. I'll just turn off the comments. One of the reasons is hatred. No. It's essentially just to make sure I can see my work when I'm working through. Okay, sorry about that. I just realised I'm going out of shot. So I'm basically going through the haircut almost how I cut it when the hair was wet. And I'm elevating the section a little more than I did before. And I'm taking away quite small amounts. But it surprises me how much of a difference that makes. Just going through and taking away a little bit. Opposed to just going back into it and just smashing into it as people, I'm just going to smash into it. No, you know, I think because I'm on this journey of trying to learn as much as possible from other people. Like I say, for Christopher Brooker to message me yesterday with advice on the Firefly, I mean, that's why I did the haircut today. I wasn't going to necessarily do a Firefly because I've just done one for my online education, but I think because I had the advice from the guy who invented it, I mean, you'd be stupid not to do it. So I'm just going to bring it back, and as I bring it back, I can just see there's some hair still here to take away. I always say to people, like, when the hair's dry, that's when we tone the haircut. I mean, refining and texturizing, that's our tone, that's a haircutter's toner. You know? That's when we look at the hair, like if you were bleaching the hair, you wouldn't necessarily just bleach it and then wash it off and go, that's it, complete. You would say it needs another phase of work, it needs another toner. That's sitting really nice, to be fair. It's looking quite neat now. And it's a very similar thing with cutting. When I teach somebody, often they assume, like, when the haircut is dry, that's it, the haircut's finished. And I'm always very, very quick to dispel that and say, no, it's absolutely fine if there's work still to do. You should have balance. What you've set out to do when the hair's wet, you should have. You know, you shouldn't have one side longer than the other and things like that. You should have that, the technical stuff you set out to do should be there. But there's things we can't do when the hair is wet. I don't think you can always assess the texture as well as you can when the hair's dry. I think that depends on certain hair textures before, you know, the Facebook Live police starts to jump all over me. But I just think that it's putting people at ease. You'll get better work out of them. So again, just instead of going through and just texturising the sheer life out of what I've just spent an hour cutting, so the clasp back on. Oh, thank you very much. Lots of nice things. This is nice. A bit different to the first part. Okay, just going to be a little brief look at how we're going to dress it out. So again, just because I've just cut it, I'd use my hairdryer. Hey Tom, how's it going, mate? Hey Maria, Abu Dhabi, how's it going? So as I just blow dry this back, I ultimately use this as a bit of a way of checking it. And like you say, for me, in a world of people who just, you know, in a world of crazy vivids and all this, you know, beautiful work, but sometimes really edgy stuff, I think the cut is ultimately, you know, by the way, Lisa asking me where I've been trained. I've never been trained at Sassoon. I've never been trained anywhere really. I retrained myself at 34 after having years and years on the salon floor and just realising that I was an amazing salesperson, but I wasn't a very good craftsperson. Right, sitting nice that is actually. I'm just going to use I love a bit of hairspray, if I'm honest with you. I mean, it's no surprise that hairspray is still the best selling product on earth, really. I'm just going to put a light amount. I quite like my little kick at the front there. I'm just going to switch the comments off for a sec, just so I can see what's happening. All right. So guess what we've done, where have I put that, there we go, is quite a heavy take on the beautiful Christopher Brooker Firefly. Just one of my favourite haircuts. I absolutely love, I mean, as a cutting purist, I love anything that Sassoons have done really, but that was just probably my favourite one really. As we work through the other side, again, let's just finish off the styling. Sitting nice, that is. Again, one of the reasons I like my curved sections is generally due to the fact that the width of the head is not horizontal, as we said before. It's low, the occipital bone is the widest part of the back of the head. The parietal ridge is the widest part of the temporal bone, sorry, is the wider part of the side of the head. So they're not joined horizontal, so why do we have horizontal sections? It just baffles me a little bit. Okay, brilliant. Okay, so little recap, just to finish off the evening. This is my tribute really to the classic Firefly haircut. I really, really hope you've enjoyed it. Thank you so much for everyone who's watching it, and like and share. Thank you very much. Speak to you soon, guys.